Okay, for people joining this live stream, we are doing some things as we prepare to release version 12.3 of Wolfram language, although it's still going to be a little while before it's ready for release. It's about to go into testing. And we are looking today at dataset themes. And Chris was just saying there are 58 of them to look at, so that's quite a lot. All right, let's give it a sense.
So we need to look at the appearances, the naming, and the parameterization of some of them.
Oh gosh, hold on 1 second, guys. I'm sorry, just a second. Sorry, guys. Okay, here we are.
Right.
Okay.
So those are the themes. And rather than go through this text, we should probably just jump to the next section, which has examples. Right, so you can just like open all of that.
My gosh. Well,
yeah,
okay, so
select the theme examples bracket and just open everything.
Well, okay.
So these base themes were specified by Tim.
I think that's too heavy. I think this is way too heavy. Is Tim here, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
And who is here from design?
Nobody.
Okay, they need to be here. So can we get Jeremy?
Yep, I'll get Jeremy.
Okay. Tim, I think this is too heavy. I think this is too bold here.
I agree with you. I think it's a little heavier than I imagined.
Okay. Well, I mean, it may depend on the font rendering on different machines. So I don't really understand what is, by the time this is gray background, it doesn't have to be bolded. And by the time it's, I mean, I'm confused here. Okay, let me just start getting a sense here. So these are, okay, but this is a code font, right? And I don't think we were using code fonts for the most part for these things.
It's what is it? I think it's Verdana.
I understand, but that's a code font. That is a code font right there. That's a code font. That's not the default font of Dataset. Do you see what I'm saying? That's not this font.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So that's wrong. Right. This is a code font. So like our whatever it is, our what is it called? Source Sans code font, right?
Yeah.
So something goofed there.
Okay.
But let me just get a sense of what we're looking at. So what are the pieces here? So I mean, there's a basic bank switched choice, where we're doing something different from this, right?
Right. Those are the base themes.
Right. Did we find Jeremy? Somebody?
I did find Jeremy, and he is on his way. I just sent him the meeting invite.
Great. I mean, so the first question is, what do we not like about this classic thing? The classic thing to me has about the right relative weight of the labeling versus the content. You see what I'm saying? Whereas when we go here, it's like boom.
Yeah,
We've got labeling and the content is like, oh, well, yeah, I guess there's numbers there, but we don't know what they are. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, Tim, did you intend there to be a background color here? It looks like there's some slight background color, but it's hardly visible.
No, that's white.
I don't think they're supposed
Okay,
to.
and
There's
also,
only there's background color in those total cells.
okay, but that looks wrong as well relative to these things here.
Jeremy's here now.
Okay. Hey, Jeremy, we're reviewing dataset themes.
Okay.
And I'm not very happy so far.
All right.
Okay, we just started by looking at the current default. Okay. This is the current default.
Yep.
Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the names for. By the way, I don't think we should be calling it marketing going forward. I just don't think. I think we should be calling it, some other name like brash or something which is not a job description. You know what I'm saying?
And the same thing with business too.
Yes.
So, yeah, business and marketing we're going to change, but
what do you think we should change them to? I mean, should it be an adjective like brash or
See, I brought up the name for business. I thought maybe something like bravado or something like that.
Yeah.
That wasn't well received.
No, I don't think that's quite right. But
and marketing can be a descriptive thing like dark neon, because throughout it's a dark background, and then like in plots and things, it's a neon color. So
great.
It's dark neon.
That's nice. That says a lot more than, I mean.
Do we have another dark mode? I saw that one seems good, but it'd be nice if we didn't only have dark neon as the only dark choice.
Yeah, the problem is with maps, there's a dark vector already. So we can't just call it dark.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if neon's part of it, then maybe there's another version of dark that isn't quite so neon.
Yeah, well, so the thing we got to get across. Okay, so in the case of plots, right? I mean, we should. How did I best do this? How do I get a list of plot themes?
You can. I can just give you. There you go.
Yeah, but I want to see.
Doesn't dollar plot themes give it to you?
Is there a dollar plot themes?
I don't know what context it's in. There is one.
Yeah. Try dollar plot themes. Make sure
Okay.
it's plural.
Boy, we should be going to that for our default.
Make sure it's plural. Plot theme. That's how you said it. Okay. It's
in the charting.
It's charting
context.
backtip. Yeah, charting backtip. There you go. There you go.
Okay. So what do these sub things mean here?
They're grouped by category, like axis. That's all the axis things. These contain micro themes, and then see base themes. It's like the fourth line.
I see that. I see that.
Yeah,
But
those are based off a lot of these other themes. So it's broken down to a bunch of micro themes.
So look, the ones we don't like, minimal, monochrome, they're fine. I don't particularly like, detailed. What does detailed really do? Yeah, let's take a look.
It adds things like grids and legends. So it adds detail. It's kind of the opposite of minimal.
Yeah, I think those two are both fine. I mean, the thing I just don't like, I just don't, when I say I want to use the marketing theme, that feels wrong to me.
Yeah, no,
okay.
This was discussed in other meetings. So, I mean, we are changing business and marketing.
Okay, well, let's decide what we're changing them to. I mean, so you're proposing.
Dark neon was what?
I mean, here's a word. The word standout might be a possible word.
You're using bold and it's along the same lines, but it feels better, like dark bold, and we'd have bold and dark bold maybe.
Well, I think bold has the problem that it might be bold fonts.
Ah, yeah, wait, yeah.
But so what's a synonym for bold?
Do we have a thesaurus in the Wolfram language?
We do, but here, let me I'm for some reason with the thesaurus, it's about the only thing where I have this paper thesaurus written by this person we know, that I've been using for millions of years. Brazen, audacious.
Vivid, dark vivid.
Vivid is nice. Vivid is a nice name, word. Steve on the live stream is suggesting heavy. That's an interesting word as well. That's an interesting word for maybe a theme we don't yet have, but that's a colorful is another possible word for something. Steve is suggesting brave. Let's see.
Powerful, robust.
Strong.
Yeah, strong is okay. Daring, I don't know whether that's a let's see. Flashy. Lively, flashy, loud. Okay, I think, okay, so let's look at some of these, because I mean, okay, so that's what marketing looks like. And web we think is still useful as a term, right? Is that really being used as on the web, or is that really being used for other purposes? And could we have something which, I mean, what does web really do? It cuts out, what does it do, Tim?
It's just a nice, clean, bright look. It's more of a modern look.
Okay, there's bright, there's clean. I want to go to nuts. Visualization. Okay, so what would you name if you were naming this? It's a question from Voiceless. Does web use web safe colors? What's the answer to that, Tim?
No, I don't. I mean, it's.
Although web safe is a outdated term, you know, from
Yeah.
the 8-bit days.
Does anybody care about it at this point?
I don't think so. I mean, that's when monitors were constrained to 8-bit color. That was important. It's really not a concern anymore.
Okay, but so here what we've got this web marketing. We've also got what does the business theme do here?
You know, if you open up plot theme, the documentation, it's got a description of each one. Click on details, and then there's a description of each one.
Okay, bright modern look. Detailed, elegant. Well, it's actually not that elegant. It's eye-catching, though. All right, look, we have to rename these, and we probably want a few extras as well. I mean, we probably want something which is pure dark, as opposed to this, this bright case here. And maybe, I mean, bright dark is obviously a very poor name. Okay, what is our process going to be for getting these renamed? And how many do we think we want to end up with? Tim, are you the one figuring this out, or who's figuring this
Well,
out?
I'll be working. I will be working on it. I mean, this
Is Brett
usually,
the right person? Maybe we should get Brett.
Brett and Roger. We kind of all discuss things.
Okay, so maybe can somebody see if we can find Brett, please?
Yeah, I'll try to find Brett.
Okay. All right, let's go back to our primary thing here, which is, so to me, we need some of these words like vivid, lively, maybe, we've got other words like this. I don't know which of these words are right, but I think what we should think about is, given the word, what do we want it to look like? And can we map one of these words directly onto what we're doing for these other things already, for these other things here? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I suspect we should end up with 2 or 3 more base themes. Make sense?
Well, there's one I was thinking about doing anyway. That would be an all black.
What's the difference?
Black and white. Monochrome has grayscale. See, now we have all the different fillings, like
I see.
And
I see.
Incorporate those.
So that's like black, white, or
Yeah.
something.
In fact, that's the name I had for it to begin with.
Okay.
Well, I mean, nice to have if we have this set to just have the dark version of each of these. I don't, right? Because I end up I like marketing, but only because in certain cases the dark is nice, but some of the other pieces I don't love.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, hold on. What do you mean by dark for all?
Well, so dark web, let's say, not actual dark web, but bright, simple, clean, but on a dark background.
So basically each one with just a dark background.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
Why not? It's just one of variant, and you've got the style set already, and just make it work on a dark background.
Yeah,
Right.
but the colors will change. See, that's the problem.
Obviously, you want to change. I mean, the dark version of each of these will be different from the non-dark version.
But maybe the hue sequence is the same. So you started off with the roughly red, whatever the color hue sequence is, maybe stays the same.
Right. I mean, Tim is thinking there's lots of work to do in those, and yes, there is, but it's important. Yeah, I think there's a possible word. Another word that might be nice is lightweight. There's another concept. I mean, what are the concepts we're trying to get across here? Our original thinking with plot themes was, we knew some of these, like, detailed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, maybe there's one called publication. Or
And what would that be?
That's basically scientific.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because see, we experimented with ones that would be geared towards specific publications.
I understand that, but I think we can get a publication and monochrome publication seem like they would be useful, right? But maybe publication is again too specific. I mean, maybe it has the same problem as something like marketing or business, because it's like, why are you putting this up on the screen with the word publication? It's very weird if I'm just working on some random, I mean, I don't mind using minimal as a plot theme in just everyday work I'm doing, but it's pretty weird when I'm using business in everyday random research type stuff that I'm doing. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have Brett now.
Okay. We're talking about the redoing of plot themes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And some renaming and some new themes.
Okay.
All right, we're going to loop back to this, but we are coming back to the original topic, which is themes for data sets. Okay. And I'm not liking what I'm seeing so far. Okay. So what we want to achieve here. So again, if business was called Vivid, for example, how do we feel about, what do you think about that? Is that a reasonable name?
I'd say it's more colorful than vivid.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay, but so then it would be colorful, and the actual one we have right now is dark colorful. Is that correct? Because we have a dark prefix for everything with a dark background. Is that correct?
Yeah. Colorful's pretty generic, though. I mean, they're all colorful.
So. Yeah, I think so as well. I think this has to be, stand out, or, what are you achieving with, well, okay, I'm looking at marketing, aren't I, here? So help me out. What do we think this, the description here, elegant, eye-catching. Help me out with what you think Tim, as the designer of this stuff, what is your word to describe this?
I mean, just what we put down there.
Right, but I need one word.
Dark neon.
That's two. Okay, but neon is okay, so that's
just a color that's used in it.
You should try a couple other, try like bar chart too. There's some other rendering effects that are used that are non-standard. They're more showy that you don't see in plots.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and pie chart. I mean, so this is where you have free reign to use all sorts of effects that you probably wouldn't use in other cases.
Yeah, I mean, see, the point is that Tim, to some extent here, is, he is designing to the name, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And these are, suitable for marketing presentations. It kind of suggests that we should try to get the same, some of the same functionality. I hate this term marketing. It's just the wrong term.
It might be okay for this visualization, but maybe you want some other dark ones. Like you maybe wouldn't use this. You might not use this for bar charts or pie charts. That's okay. Some people might, but you probably want a nice dark theme.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, but again, this is designed to the name.
Right.
We're going to do a marketing presentation. What should the pie chart look like? Okay, there it is. And I think we're saying the same thing, Jeremy. We want something which is the same kind of colors, but without the fancy.
I think so. I just feel like marketing maybe isn't bad, but it's not the default dark thing most people would want, right? It has its place, but it's probably, right now it's the only dark theme, so it's the one you reach to when you want something dark.
Right. I mean, so we have the, further down on that plot theme page, we have the color themes, which have.
Those are very sensible. I mean, those are very clear what kind of thing they are.
Right.
Sandra is suggesting insipid as a name for something. See, the thing is, the problem here is that we don't want value judgments in these names. They're just like, you could have it, you could not have it. Neon color, there's no value judgment.
Right. I mean, at the same time, you don't want things that are too generic.
Yeah, otherwise nobody knows what the heck it is.
Yes.
See, but I also feel like people will learn, this is a theme I like, it has this name, just like people learn this is a font I like, it has this name. All right, well, look, maybe we'll loop back to this, but we got to address the data set question. Okay, so again, see, I wish we could address it with better named themes, because this is just horrible, because I don't know what we're going to do with this. Okay, first point is, oh boy. Okay, what is the serious freedom that we have here. So one thing we have is the alternation of colors, right?
Yep.
Another thing we have is the background color and fonts here, right? So again, to my mind, this is just completely losing it. I don't understand why you would want to emphasize the headings this much relative to the content.
Yeah, this particular example is even more extreme because that text, since it's quantity, is formatted with, it's not black, it's a lighter warm gray.
Okay, fine. But I mean, so, okay, so what should we do with this? I mean, first of all, again, I don't think this font works at all. So what is that font? Is that the bold of the standard thing, or is that a specially chosen font?
No, I think it's bold for Dana.
Okay. Well, it's okay. So what is our default font?
For Dana.
So that's just the bold of this. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I say something like this, and I say font family, arrow, Dana. Okay, so let's check it's that. Okay. And if you say, I say the bold version of that, wow. That's horrifying.
We don't have to stick with Verdana.
That is a bold.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily go source sans and source sans semi-bold. It ships with the product. It's always going to work.
But is source sans not very codey?
No, source sans pro. No, it's not very much code. Yeah, no. It put a space source sans pro. I don't know what. I think you bet you're getting Arial there.
Oh, I see.
And you have to space pro, capital P. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a slightly smaller font as well.
Yeah,
So,
for a given font size, it renders smaller.
Okay, so then we might render everything in Source Sans Pro, including all these numbers and so on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what you're saying is the bold of that.
Bold is bold, but you can go font weight goes to semi-bold, and it's in the middle. Mm-hmm.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
But do we even want? Okay, explain why these labels are bold, because I don't get it. Do you understand what I'm asking? To me, depends what the labels mean, but I don't see any reason why they would be bold. I mean, they're on a background color. They might or might not be the main event relative to the actual content here.
Can you do it with a data set that doesn't have units on everything?
I'm sure I can.
Yeah,
just,
do Titanic.
Well, tell me what to type. Okay, so
just replace planets with Titanic.
Okay, that's classic, but now let's see what happens if I'm looking at like your business version. Or let's say marketing. Whew, okay. Well, that's not bad. I mean, that. See, I just don't know. Do you want the heading to stand out, or do you want the content to stand out? Do you see what I'm asking?
I mean, I think you want the heading to stand out some at least.
Okay, this looks really sucky, in my opinion. That just doesn't make it.
Yeah, but at the same time, the classic one, where the text was the same.
I don't think the classic one is that terrible, but also the other thing that's wrong is that this light gray down here is definitely not making it with all this stuff here. Is that changeable, Chris?
I can make it changeable. It's not currently.
Okay, well, I think it needs to be, because I don't think that looks right. Guys, any comment on that?
It's a very light gray from what I can see.
Yeah, but Jeremy, do you have any comment? I just don't think it works with this.
Yeah, if there were a line and it was white, it would be okay. If it fits with the rows of the body, it probably is better. I don't think you want to give it a bunch of color though.
No.
Yeah.
No. But it's got to fit with the rest of the
Yeah,
design.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I don't think that looks bad. That all fits, right? We don't have this weird floaty thing happening down here. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why is that weird floaty thing happening?
Well, it's the same. So the only difference between those two on the bottom is that the top one doesn't have an outer border.
Okay. All right. So that
is, and that's another question. Do we want that or not? That's the way Tim specified it.
Tim specified what? The thing without the outer border.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think if it doesn't have an outer border, you've got to change that.
I don't love the double border, but if it had a outer border but no panel border, it might look nice.
But the problem with the panel border is that you've got to enclose the scroller.
Maybe, or it just sets next to. I mean, it might not look bad without it. The scroller would be just next to the panel.
Can we set that?
I wouldn't be sorry to lose that outer border. We could have an option to make it disappear.
Okay.
We could just lose it entirely.
How does it look when you get small without the outer border?
You mean small magnification?
No, I mean a small data set, lots of small data sets. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Like a grid of one element data sets or something.
Or I mean, small enough that it doesn't need the scroll bar.
Yeah, that just looks sucky to have a double border there. Why did we put the border in the first place, really?
To enclose the scroll bar with the rest of the content, so it all looks like one thing. But I agree with Jeremy. I don't really understand the purpose. I think the
Let's try removing it.
Would be clearly associated with the data set. It was just approximate.
Fine. Well, let's try removing it. Okay, but let's go back to what are we trying to achieve with these themes? Okay, so can somebody explain to me? I mean, so we've got things like, does it have, I mean, so this one will be kind of without the outer border, will look kind of clean here. Right, I mean, so there's the horizontal only separators, there's the vertical only separators. Am I making sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's
both.
There's there's four separator themes, horizontal, vertical, both, and one called group dividers, which it's all dividers except at the lowest level. So the lowest level row and column blocks are not divided.
Okay. Okay, then we've also got background colors, alternating background colors, for example, for different, like you've done here.
Right.
Okay. We're also trying to bring some color to the whole thing. We do not think we want to color the main content, correct? Although we might have a background for the main content. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
I think I agree with that statement that you don't want to color the main content, with the exception of, like if you have a dark background, then it presumably needs to be, light text for the main content.
Can you reevaluate that web input? There's a bug here that I fixed.
Okay, all right, whatever.
Those dark headers should line up with the darkened rows, but it's off by one.
Okay.
Can you do that one again with the Titanic?
Yeah.
Just to have another view of it.
That looks nicer.
Mm-hmm.
Not much less of a mess than this one. I mean, this one has many reasons why it's a mess. So, Chris, these things here, they need to have styling, right?
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
Honestly, this doesn't look that bad to me. Although I don't quite know. I mean, again, design folk, what do you think about these? I mean, if we went in that heading to something which has, if we're going to reverse out like that, we're going to have reasonably bold type. True or not true?
That's true. But if it's you know, a dark font on a lighter background, we could go with this that semi-bold.
No, I understand. But the question is, okay. How can you choose how all the text is aligned in each cell type? Can't you just say alignments in here now?
Yeah. Item, you say alignment or header alignment.
So alignment, if I say alignment arrow right here, it'll just align like that. I see. And then header alignment deals with the headers. Okay. There's comments about exporting to LaTeX and so on, which we should support more. I don't know what I mean, does anybody have any idea what this will do if I say export this to export string to HTML?
I have not tried that.
This is not looking promising.
I was going to say abort it and do it to HTML fragment.
That looks really horrifying. That did nothing. That's just the raw data. It just didn't do anything at all. So that's a serious problem which we need to address. Well, that's an interesting point from Ethan. Make them look good in styled notebooks as well. Everybody's just making it hard for us, but that's okay. That's a question for Tim with respect to the plot themes. How well have we investigated that?
Investigating what?
The thing I was just mentioning. In a styled notebook, right? I mean, I think we are planning to rework the notebook styles. But the question is, if I do this, if I styled my notebook here with, I don't know what, report, confidential report, I don't even know what that means. That's not very exciting. You know, how well do these work? Well, that wasn't very exciting. What happens if I go
to slideshows?
Okay, no, that journal one should be fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do a plain plot in that notebook now.
Well, yeah, I just need, whoops. Oh, that one defaults.
The default, yeah.
Copy the cell. Yeah, okay.
So that inherited a plot theme from the style sheet.
Right.
Right. The default plot theme looks at what the style sheet is.
And there's themes for like Earth and Garnet and all those. They're the slideshows.
So if I use the slideshow.
Yeah, any of those. You have to reevaluate.
So if I now do that plot,
you just reevaluate it.
Yeah.
So you get different colors and you get
That's
different
nice.
fonts.
Good work. It's nice. And so what does that going to do for Dataset? Have you?
I mean, I don't know if it does, but conceivably it can do the same thing.
Right. By the way, we called it reverse color just millions of years ago. It will be dark mode, the name for the style sheet. there.
Okay.
Okay. Are these our internal ones? Do these ship with a product, or are these just internal?
I think
No,
that's because
you've
you have
added these.
DocuTools or something.
Oh, okay.
Some of those may actually ship with the product. I mean, they're the versions that are used by the documentation when you're in the doc viewer.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Let's try and disentangle this. Okay. So we've got, first point is we don't like the Verdana font. It's too bold. That's probably not going to be useful for any case. Okay. Second point. You have got these sub options down here. Okay. So these font themes. Okay. So let's look through some of these. Okay. So we agreed these are code fonts and they're wrong, right? So the default will be the Source Sans Pro. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so small items, large items. I think that's interesting. These are all interesting. If the fonts were more sensible, they'd look good, I think. Okay, does anybody want to these look good to me. Any comments, Jeremy?
I was looking for sans serif or italic serif. I'm not sure that's there. It's the variants on serif should be there.
I see. So,
or can you use them together?
Yeah,
Well-
using them together is fine, but
Yeah, that's not currently implemented. I had it implemented and there were some problems. I need to fix it, but you should be able to combine like italic and sans.
mhm.
okay, fine. So long as that's documented, it seems okay to me. Now, where do we have the relative coloration of the headers? Is that coming, the relative coloration of the headers and the content?
You mean a theme?
No, I mean one
other
of
than
these themes. Oh, I see. These are just naked themes here. So
All right, these are feature themes that are meant to be combined.
I understand it. So I'm looking for a feature theme that has to do with
Header backgrounds.
yes.
So color feature themes.
Right, we don't have any of those other than the base themes that determine header colors.
Okay, but so I don't think that's right. Okay, so what are we doing in this case here? We're doing
Although
these colors. What's that?
there are parametric background themes. You can specify colors of the background striping and the header striping.
No. I'm asking in plots. How do we do that? In the background color, obviously say background arrow, whatever, in a plot, right?
Yeah, you do the same thing in Dataset.
There
Okay,
is a background color that automatically colors things based on the background color.
It's at the top of your doc notebook, your help viewer.
Background color
And then you,
with a color. There, you're saying here.
Right.
yeah, or it finds the actual notebook background color.
But I mean, if I were to say here, you know, background arrow blue or something. Oh, good God.
That's what you asked for.
Well, I understand that, but it's doing the background only for the content area.
Right, there's header background for the headers.
Okay, so
I mean, I suppose we could have themes that coordinate the two.
okay, so let's say I have header background. Okay, so notice, by the way, that we've got trouble with these. What are we going to call these things? Do you understand the question?
Footers.
Are they footers?
I mean, I'm wondering, is that style the same style as, the more stuff at the bottom of a large data set?
I mean, it's the same idea, yeah.
No. But should it be the same style or should they be differently named? Because we've got to get something which switches the style of this. Because this is obviously wrong. We got to be able to switch that style. We got to be able to. So what? Again, what are we calling these? Extenders, openers. See what I'm saying? I mean, that could be called an opener background or something, but I don't know whether that's the right, or opener style. But we don't. What other things do we have? A header style?
Yeah.
Okay. So we could call this something like opener style for these things.
Yeah.
What would we call the thing at the bottom then?
You're talking about the paginator? The thing
Yes.
You say, is it? Yeah.
Well, maybe we should call it paginator. Opener style, paginator style, and just have a single option like that.
Is it pagination though? I mean, it's more of jump points in a continuous scroll, right?
What?
Well, I don't think these are pages, right? Can't you scroll it on a long list? It would jump to a
Well, the
part of
paginator
the
has
scroll.
buttons that give you a page at a time.
Like navigator or something instead of paginator.
Yeah, a navigator is awfully general. Although we might be able to reuse it for other things. I mean, the other thing we've got that's coming of the same type is the in notebook repository browser, which might use the very same technology that we have here. Okay, so we got those things. All right, so now let's keep going. You've got your font themes, you've got divider themes. Okay, that's what you were talking about, row dividers, column dividers, group dividers, okay. And there isn't a sense of alternating dividers or some such other thing. That doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't really make any sense now.
Okay, so what do you call the thing which looks like an old line printer with the alternating color backgrounds?
Well, there's an example down below of a parametric background.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something. Look, there is a standard thing which we could call line printer. At least us old fogies know what we're talking about.
But you're talking about like a base style.
But it's alternating rows, right? But the rows are just the main key values.
I mean, I would expect that to have an example under background themes at the bottom of the next screen full of your
Okay,
notebook.
all right, fine.
Yeah. So there are a lot of background themes. The main ones are row backgrounds, column backgrounds, and full, which means row and columns. And those stripe the top level rows and columns.
I don't think that's the right name for this. I think it would be alternating rows or something, alternating columns or some such other thing, because row background suggests to me that it's, it doesn't suggest this alternation thing.
Yeah, although, I mean, what else are you going to do with rows other than alternate the backgrounds?
So, well, I'm sorry, what are you saying?
I mean, what else would you do with backgrounds other than alternate them?
I have no idea, but row backgrounds doesn't tell me it's alternating.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, row backgrounds, I probably wouldn't think that hard, and I would think this is going to be the background color of all rows. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
I kind of think the alternation is what matters. Now, this thing here, okay, but this alternation, the alternation color, I see the color is being determined by something else. Okay, fine. This full doesn't make it for me. I mean, alternating, what do we do when we want to say both of them? It's probably something like that. What's detailed row backgrounds?
So detailed stripes the lowest level rows.
I would never have figured that out.
Yeah, well, it may not be the best name, but
Okay, all right. Okay, so what name should we use for that? And why is that concept useful?
Well, I mean, in this case, if you want the individual moons to be striped rather than just the top level planets, that's how you would do it.
And why would I want that?
Can you do that planets data set with just regular row backgrounds? Just so I can see what it actually does.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't stripe.
No. I mean, take out the detailed.
Oh, I see. I don't understand what this did. I just don't understand this. I mean, it's not. It's doing.
Every other planet is striped a darker.
Okay, so it's
background.
at the top level.
Right.
So you were using the word detailed. Oh boy. Okay, so this stripes at the top level,
right,
as opposed to striping all levels.
No, detailed stripes the leaves.
I understand. I'm pointing at this one here. This stripes the top of the tree.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
Is there anything that stripes every element of the tree?
Yes, it's called hierarchical. Yes.
Does it look reasonable, or is it just totally silly?
I don't, for shallow, like 2-level data sets, it might be useful. When it gets deep, it's really hard to.
I was gonna say there's an interesting gradation that it creates.
Yeah, I mean, and with colors, that might is there a way of making a color map here?
You can specify as parametric. You can, if you put a list around hierarchical full backgrounds and then put a row color and a column color, it'll use those. So
what happens here?
It uses transparency. If you put a red filter in front of a green filter, you get black. So it's, I mean, typically you would use a lighter background for colors.
Okay, so let's say I say
Like
light
use,
red.
Yeah, that'll work better.
Okay. I see. So it's combining using RGB combination, so to speak.
It's treating them like filters. Yeah.
Yeah, RBS is saying that the colors look like they're based on exclusive OR, but they're actually.
It's multiplying the color channels.
I see.
Which is, I mean, it's essentially just applying transparency to each channel.
Okay, Ethan is commenting on tech-based tables are beautiful, apparently. Well, this is some of these I think are more beautiful than others. I don't consider these all that beautiful. Okay. I mean, that's kind of ugly. I'm learning that much here. Okay, nothing notable that I should be looking at here. Not seeing anything terribly remarkable. But I mean, notice this use of these kinds of lines, which I'm not sure I've seen with our stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, the dotted lines with the heavy lines are nice. That's interesting. Yeah. It's a simple structure, though. We're looking at really complicated data structures.
Right. But that is a case with dotted line separators we have not seen here. Chris, can you respond to that, please?
You can do that. Actually, you can do that now because there's a parameterization of the divider style, so we can specify the style.
Okay, but then we should. I mean, look, we're trying to inventory what kinds of forms are interesting. So that's one that's interesting, is a dotted divider.
Sure.
Right? There's also these heavy, things around the headings and so on. How would we do that?
So dividers are difficult because we only have local information. We don't really know what's around an element. So there are some things we can do with dividers, or some things we can't because we just don't have the information. It depends on the.
No, but I'm asking a specific question, right? You see here the header, right?
Yeah.
The header is being identified by having basically lines above and below it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, how do we do that?
But we can do it in a theme. There's no top level option to do that because it's, I don't know a general easy way of doing it.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. What we're talking about here. Go ahead.
So the way the dividers are implemented, there's a method option with horrible code that does dividers based on the local information for each cell.
Okay. So
it's complicated. It's complicated by the fact that within a grid, each successive cell overwrites the left and the bottom frame of the previous cell. So it gets really horrible to specify these things.
So you mean it is order dependent because
yes.
You have to deal with you are a box, you are a cell in this grid, and you have 4 walls, so to speak,
that are shared with the neighboring cells.
Right, and you have arguments with your neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay, but what you are doing is a left, right, top, bottom scan of these things. Therefore, you are overwriting your neighbor's walls. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But you can also instruct a cell to leave its neighbor's wall untouched. So the preceding neighbor can make the decision, and you can decide to let the decision stand. It doesn't always overwrite.
Okay, but so a given cell can take responsibility for all 4 of its walls, or for its default 2 walls, or for no walls at all, or whatever, right?
Yes, it can take a responsibility for all 4, but it doesn't know what's going to happen to the right and the bottom. And the neighbors determine that.
Okay. So, okay, hold on. So, I mean, among the things that we're not doing, so show me how to do, for example, dividers that are dotted.
If you scroll down, there's an example of a parameterized theme. Keep going. Parametric themes, right? So just open all of them. The bottom one is there's your computer paper. Right. So if you just stick in dotted.
Okay, hold on. So we've got something which is like those heavy dividers, except that here we've got heavy dividers for everything.
Yeah, right? This is right. This is
okay,
row dividers. Yeah.
I understand that, but so how do we put in? We need a concept of header dividers. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Can ignore the absolute thickness there. That's kind of nice. I mean, it's not very nice the way it goes through that gray there. But I think using dotted dividers is nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that becomes a
Right. I mean, it needs to behave similar to, how the background stuff was done, where, it was either from the top or from the bottom, or, well, I mean, I guess you really do want to separate out dividers versus content. I mean, headers versus content.
Okay, so if we say, I mean, this row dividers here, so this is now saying, okay, that's a sub option of dataset theme. So I can also say something like, actually, no, I'm saying here, header, I can only say header background. I can't say, there's no notion of header dividers, right?
No, not currently. There could be.
Okay. But I mean, so that could be done in the same way as this row dividers thing.
Yeah.
But so what does it mean? The default is to have row and column dividers, is it not?
Yes.
So if I say column dividers, why is that not also getting, I don't understand what that's going to do. Do you understand what I'm asking? Why does it make sense to have, if I just say row dividers, why does it not default to having column dividers?
Because row dividers means only row dividers.
Okay.
It's like a high level theme that means I only want row dividers.
Okay. All right. Okay.
What it sounds like what you're asking for is you want separate control over the row dividers and the column dividers. It seems a little weird, but
okay. Let me see. So, okay, we really have to resolve this stuff right now, right? Because we're trying to get all this stuff into 12.3, right?
yeah.
So we got to keep going here. So my next meeting needs to get pushed back. And also the people in it need to actually do what they were supposed to do first.
I mean, we could split the divider themes like I have the other ones in item and row versions, or item and header versions.
Yeah, we need a no padded panel frame option. I agree. Look, I think we're just going to drop this outer frame. I mean, maybe it can be a method option to put back in the outer frame. Yeah. Makes sense? Do you have a method option right now that can remove the outer frame?
No.
Okay, so we need to get that in there. Okay, so among the things that we're describing here, we need a header dividers, but I don't know what we're dividers. And what does header dividers, see, because that's what's confusing. Row dividers says switch off column dividers. Do you see what I'm saying? Which is a very weird thing for it to mean. So I'm saying most of the things here are affirmative.
No, it doesn't mean switch off row dividers. It means
no, it says
turn
switch
on
off column dividers. No, we have row dividers by default. So when you say row dividers, it means switch off column dividers. See what I'm saying? If I were to not see that, you're confused too. If I take that out, I've got both row and column dividers. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is saying switch off the other dividers.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but it makes perfect sense. That's what I.
It does make some
Just
sense.
add the word only, like only column dividers.
Yeah, row dividers. I mean, I don't know whether that's useful, but it is reasonably clear. But you guys are missing the point. No. What do we do with header dividers? Do you understand? Because what we want to say is put in header dividers, right? How do we specify that?
Can you have header row dividers and header column dividers?
Perhaps, yes. Well, but by default, see, we want to have heavier header row dividers. That's the interesting case, is to have those be heavier. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what are the different categories of things that we have? We have headers, we have items, we have rows, we have columns.
Okay, so headers, well, rows and columns are not really distinct. I mean, maybe they are. Headers, I mean, because we also could potentially have different kinds of headers. We could have row headers, column headers.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I'm just trying to figure out what our terminology is, because it affects our naming.
Oh, I know, it's a mess. Right. So what is a row? Because an item is both in a row and in a column, is it not?
No.
So a row is a collective of items. Am I correct? Is that correct?
Well, headers and items.
Okay, so a row means both the headers and the items on
Correct.
that row.
Yes, currently it does.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, Brett, please keep going. So, I mean, row headers and column headers. See, okay. Basic categories which label cells, right? So there's two different things they could be labeling. They could be labeling cells and they could be labeling the borders of cells.
Or they could be labeling groups of cells.
Yes. Right. So it has to decide which of those it is. So under what circumstances do we want to label cells? When are we labeling cells in all of the styling? Ever?
I'm not sure what you mean, but
I'm asking you, when we give
dividers.
No.
Label meaning name for, in the name of the theme.
Yeah. Okay. Right. When the theme is specifying itself, the theme says the theme is going to probably be of the form, thing, action. See what I'm saying? Yeah. Thing, style, or something. Right. Do you get what I'm saying? Like header, but it isn't. That's not what you've consistently done.
So internally, the basic division is there's row headers, there's column headers, there's items, and there are corner headers.
Okay, so let's write that down. So there's row header, column headers. What are the other ones?
Items and corner headers. And okay. I guess additionally, we'll have like paginator and opener.
Well, it may or may not be called paginator, but yeah, okay, opener. Okay. Okay, fine. So for example, the corner headers, if I wanted to decorate this with some, medieval illumination, how would I do that?
Well, you can't.
Well, I don't mean that seriously, but I mean, change its color, for example.
There's no top level way to change the corner header independently of the other things.
Okay, but so if I were to specify the row headers and the column headers, what color does the corner header get left?
It belongs to the column headers. It's essentially a header for that column of row headers.
Okay, but you're choosing to name it differently.
Yeah, because they're kind of, in styling, you want to treat them as separate beasts.
But you said you couldn't restyle them differently.
Not at top level. I can do it internally. I can do
Okay.
it in
Are there any themes that say leave that corner header blank, even though the row headers and the column headers are styled?
Well, there's like minimal, yeah, that essentially is a blank.
Okay, so if I say dataset theme, by the way, the fact that that predictive interface showed nothing in that case is really kind of unfortunate. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It should certainly show the restyling of the data set, if not making it normal of the data set and all those kinds of things. Makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I meant, are there anywhere like the row and header columns? Row and column headers are, like have a colored background, but the corner one doesn't.
No.
Okay.
Okay, let's come back over here. Okay, so we've got these elements. Oh boy. All right. We gotta be organized here. We've been jumping around like crazy. Let's by the way, how many of these themes are also supported for grids?
None.
Are we going to do that?
I mean, as far as I know, the grid does not have themes.
But isn't this implemented using grid?
Yeah. But not by, I mean, yes, it is.
But so you shouldn't have to go into all of the data set, stuff to get theming for a grid, should you?
The grid doesn't have
Well,
any notion of headers, does it?
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
it doesn't.
it takes advantage of a lot of information about an item, whether it's a header, a row header, a column header, what level it's at, what index in the row. There's a lot of information.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. All right, let's go back up here again. Okay. Okay, so we have not resolved how to get these separator lines around the headers, but not around other things, have we? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Okay, that's one of the things we need to resolve. We've also not resolved I kind of feel like we should be more explicit with some of these things because I think it's going to be incomprehensible otherwise. If we say color alternating rows, at least then we have a fighting chance of knowing what that might mean. Am I making sense?
I mean, I don't think you need the alternating. I think that
I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. If you say color rows, it means to me take every row and make it green. This idea of alternation is it's a different idea.
Right. But I mean, my take on this and my idea is that you should rarely be seeing color rows on its own and have to know what it means.
Well, fine.
Right. I mean, the usual way that you would see this is on the right-hand side of an option completion. At which point we have the ability to just show you what it's going to look like.
Well, then why don't we give it an explicit name if it's going to be auto-completed anyway? Let's not give it an obscure name, because if this is something, when you look up the definition of some particular dataset theme and you see this thing in it, you want to know what it is. I think you're giving all the arguments for why this should be as explicit as possible.
Well, there's one argument on why it shouldn't, which is that if you look at the documentation notebook for plot theme that you have there,
Yeah.
I guess there's enough space, but
oh, that's a ridiculous argument. Okay,
that depends on how verbose you get, Steve.
That argument is already dead. Okay. Okay, let's talk about headers again. Okay, so we've got 4. Okay, so we have the possibility of go ahead.
Are we confusing themes and options? I mean, it almost seems like we're trying to design options to specify, row header row dividers and row header column dividers. Those are not really themes.
No, they're not.
They would be used in themes.
They're not. I mean, this is why we might actually want an option called header dividers, right? Just like we have an option called dividers, right? We have an option called header background, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So maybe we want header dividers, just like we have dividers and background. We want header dividers and header background. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
And so then header dividers would presumably be the dividers above and below a header.
Well, why not left and right?
Well, I mean, it's okay. Okay, so dividers right now, if you want only row dividers, what do you do? Is it true, false, or something?
Well, you mean for a grid?
No.
There's no dividers option for Dataset.
Really?
Yes.
How come?
Well, then,
Thinks there is.
and there never has been.
Well, it thinks there is.
No, I turned off syntax coupling in that notebook because.
Oh. Okay. What is the okay?
I mean, I think we have this, a fundamental issue of, what things apply to dataset and what things apply to grid, and what things we expect.
I don't understand why the grid options shouldn't be. I see. The reason they can't be applicable to dataset is because dataset is a hierarchical structure.
Exactly.
And it's even vastly more complicated than grid.
Yes.
To specify all of these things.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then let's not discuss. I mean, then you're saying basically none of these are options. They're all being stuffed into themes because it's too complicated to specify everything in total detail. I mean, I assume that you have a fall through where you can specify everything in total detail.
Well, there's a method option that
no, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if I want to format the level 7 of my data set with a grid that has alternating pink and green things, can I do that?
Backgrounds.
Is there some no, is that
but not dividers yet. There's currently no control over dividers.
So backgrounds you can do, but dividers for some reason you cannot do.
Exactly. Yes.
Why?
I mean, it was never on the agenda.
Okay, that's not a good answer. I mean, is there a reason? Is there a good reason it can't be done?
Well, it's not at all straightforward. Coming up with a syntax that actually is understandable and works.
I understand, but the syntax I mean, this is obviously a complicated syntax here. that is dealing with the fact that it's an off by one type thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand why this syntax here wouldn't work in the successive levels of data set. Seems like it would.
Possibly.
I mean, that syntax basically assumes that it's, a nice n by n type of thing.
No,
and once you
just
start
says-
throwing the spanning stuff in, then it's,
Oh boy. Yeah, then it's complicated. I agree. Let's see. If I look up header background, those are very ugly examples. Eventually we're going to have to make consistent all these different functions that have, like table form has headers, right? Is table form getting re-implemented as data set?
No, a table form is a low-level thing.
I'm aware of that, but
unrelated to Dataset.
Why?
Well, it's intended to be a lightweight, extremely efficient thing, which is not what Dataset is.
That's an implementation detail. Why would it? It's an implementation detail. Why does it make any difference? I mean, we've got a headers option for table view, don't we? For table form, don't we?
I don't know.
Is it table headers?
That's right. Well, at least it was a nice defensive. Why did it not come up there as a direct hit? Okay, so table headers, table headings. Oh, I see. Table headings. Okay, so it's different. Okay, fine, it's different. Okay. So header background, I see it, level K. All right, fine. I get it. Okay, let's go back around again. Okay, so we've got, the things we're trying to achieve are, how do we do something where we have thicker lines around the headers, but the headers are styled? Do you understand what I'm saying? You understand the point.
You're talking about things like in that tech table.
Yes, for example, yes.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Well, I would think we'd need to define various classes of dividers. There's header dividers, there's the outer header dividers, there's the internal header dividers.
Okay, but what is your proposal for how one possibility is that in the end, we throw in a giant association of detailed tweaks that initially could live in the method option that just say what to do with each of these different things, which could include the openers, the paginators, all that kind of stuff. And then your themes can sort of bank switch those things.
Yeah. But in practice, for the themes, it's more complicated than that, because in some cases, if an item is the outermost item not preceded by a row header, you want one kind of divider. If it's preceded by a row header, you want a different divider. So that's where it gets complex.
Okay. By the way, a point being made by Ethan on our live stream here is that it should be possible to cast a data set into a grid. It's an interesting idea. Well, actually, is it even possible? Might not be possible because of the way the headers work and so on.
You could translate it into some sort of grid.
It might be a lossy operation.
Oh, sure, you wouldn't be able to go back.
Right, but that's basically what Chris is doing right now, right? Is
Yeah, with a lot of fluff. I mean, you could defluff it and spit it out as a grid.
Okay.
So my best guess is we would define various classes of dividers, like the divider between the headers and the content, the divider between content items, all those things, and then you would be able to apply a style to each one.
Yes.
Whether or not I have the information internally to actually support that is another question. Because Dataset was never designed to know, what's next to what. It just makes a grid. It has no idea what's next to what. And everything I do with dividers now is only based on local information. So I know an item, if it's first in its row or last in its row, those kinds of things, but I don't know if an item is next to a header, for example.
I understand. Okay, so let's say you wanted to have those thick lines around a header, okay? And you were doing that just at the level of the theme. Can you do that?
I think I could. It's not straightforward, but I think I could.
Why is it not straightforward? Because otherwise something is going to step on it from below.
Well, you only want thick lines like above and below the entire mass of headers, right? You don't want thick lines between each level of header, I'm presuming.
I guess, yes.
Yeah, it's those kinds of things that are tricky.
No, that's tricky.
But yes, I could do that now with the themes.
All right, so maybe for a theme name, there could be something that's called something like, header lines or something. That means that. That means that one thing of put lines around the header. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're not addressing the microcontrol of the third level header gets lines around it type thing.
Yeah, but another complication in this is that the method option that controls this is typically implemented as a function. And so if I have two component functions, there's really no way for me to combine them. If I'm trying to add header lines to the minimal theme.
Well, I don't understand.
Well, so the minimal.
Are you talking about an implementation detail inside method options? Because I would assume.
Yes.
That, okay.
So what you want to do is tease apart these various components and recombine them into one thing. And if they're implemented as functions, that's hopeless.
Maybe they should be combinators or something.
So maybe what has to happen there is we have to define these classes of dividers and make those available via top level options, and then we can
I'm confused about what you're talking about, but the goal needs to be something like this, that you say dataset, right. Dataset minimal, and then but include header lines, right. Just like you think you're going to, and then we say color alternating columns,
right?
So first statement is, I think it's important that every statement here be an affirmative, so to speak. Yeah. So this header lines means you're putting in header lines.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're not putting in some other lines. So I think then it wants to be, now, okay, again, that's a little confusing because there will be some base styles that have no divider lines and others that do. Right. So, if I then say, if there was a base style that had no divider lines, and then I said row dividers, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then that would say switch on row dividers, but not column dividers from that base style. But if the base style had both, I would expect row dividers to leave it unchanged.
Yeah.
But I think what we can do.
That sounds weird to me.
Which sounds weird? I thought we had agreed that we were going to say something like, we could also have things like, we could have no column dividers. That's a sensible idea. Omit column dividers.
That's an affirmative negative.
Right. Well, because
it's
otherwise
declarative. It's
okay, but listen. Otherwise, what are we going to do? It depends on the base style. What column dividers might does it mean drop row dividers or not? Right. That will depend on the base style.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Does it or does it not depend on the base style, Chris?
Yes.
Wait a minute. So your column dividers means something different if the base style contains both row and column dividers. Yes or no?
No. Okay, I misunderstood.
Oh boy. Okay. So that's incomprehensible, basically. So to me, these things have to be able to, there is a base style that has certain things switched on. So these sort of declarations have to switch on and off things relative to the base style. Is that right, or is that not how you're thinking about it?
That's not how I was thinking about it. I mean, I was thinking of dividers as just monolithic things. You can specify a divider style.
Okay, but is that the only thing you're thinking about in that way?
Well, the background styles are pretty much the same way, yeah. There's not like separate control of row and column backgrounds, other than via the full backgrounds style or theme, which gives you both row and column alternating backgrounds. But there's
Which is incomprehensible.
You can't combine a row backgrounds with column backgrounds. It's either one or the other. They don't merge, they don't combine.
Yeah, I know. I think that's super confusing given those names. Again, I don't think backgrounds is the right name for something which is fundamentally alternating.
Yeah.
And by the way, it could even odd alternate or odd even alternate.
Well, actually, you can make them cyclic too. You can specify a list of colors
by giving a second thing in a list.
Instead of giving a single color, you can give a list of colors, and it will cyclic.
Well, you mean in a list? So you're saying
there's an example at the bottom.
Okay, I understand, but I'm trying to understand what you're doing. You're saying row dividers, and I say
no,
red.
not row dividers, backgrounds.
Oh, row backgrounds. It's plural, backgrounds, plural. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So
red
then, just alternates with the default background color.
So wait a minute. So red and that red is really red and none. Is that correct?
Well, red and it's white.
No, but it should be none, right? There's no background, so it should be none. It shouldn't change the background. If there's a background specified for the whole thing, it should be neutral. It should be the same as the background for the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but so this is then. Okay, so what you're saying is if I just say row backgrounds, I am effectively getting a default that says row backgrounds, something like light gray, none. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, but very bizarrely, row backgrounds on its own also switches column backgrounds to, presumably, pure, well, what would it be? None, or what?
Yeah, in that syntax.
Well, what is it in another syntax?
Well, there is no syntax for saying no column backgrounds. I mean, row backgrounds is a style in which only the rows have alternating backgrounds. That's the intent. It's not a component. It's just the overall look.
But it is a component because it goes along with the marketing style, for example.
Well, some use the prepackaged background styles, and some have their own.
I understand, but whatever it has, I've got to do this mix-in of saying, oh, and give me row backgrounds as well in minimal style or whatever else it is, right?
Yes, it'll mix in with things like dividers and header styles and such, but it won't mix in with other background themes.
Okay, so what wins?
What
the base theme or something, or this thing?
If you specify a base theme and a row backgrounds in addition, you'll get row backgrounds. It will supersede what's in the base theme.
Okay, so it wins.
Yes.
Okay.
But you cannot specify row backgrounds one thing and column backgrounds something else and get both row and column backgrounds.
I know, because of the way you specified row and column backgrounds, which I don't think is right. Okay, and I mean, in your full backgrounds thing, God knows what you have a matrix as the second element there. Is it a tiled matrix that you have, or tiled tensor that you have?
It's just row colors and column colors.
No. Oh, you mean in the full?
You're talking about the parameterization.
I'm talking about the full backgrounds case.
Right. The parameters, okay? Yeah.
I'm talking about what you give as the colors in the full backgrounds case.
Right, you give the row color and the column color.
So you give a sequence of row colors and then a sequence of column colors.
If you want more than one, yes.
Okay, and those are just interspersed. So, okay, all right, fine. Okay. Okay, look, we're okay. What did we started off just not being very happy with the coloring of these things, colors and fonts of these things, right? And then we've started, I mean, like something like this, I don't really understand this. What? Yeah, I don't really understand this at all. I don't understand why that separator didn't go up higher.
Because it's a separator for that second level data set. Actually, the third level, second.
Well, I mean, is that gap because, if that outer frame goes away, as we've discussed, then that separator would basically be sorry, never mind.
I don't think the outer frame going away will look terrible in this case. I don't think that thing will seem like it's floating because it has this thing. It always will have a divider unless you switch off these header dividers, basically. It will always have something which is spanning up to it, correct?
At that level, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go back through this, right? We've understood that there need to be some internal options for the opener style and the paginator style and navigator style.
Right.
Okay.
Wait, you said internal options. You don't want those to be top level, just like header style?
I don't think we should yet. I think we should just have people look. This is unbelievably complicated to switch, as we can see from this whole discussion. Right? We spent an hour talking about these details. I think for most people, what's going to matter is, that there are good themes that they can switch into, banks switch into. Am I making sense?
That was my philosophy in implementing this.
Right. So, because the details are really quite complicated and there are a lot of things you won't think of, and it's just a big mess.
Right. So you're proposing these should be method options, opener style, paginator style.
I think so for now. Yes. I mean, if it turns out people really love having, being able to orange theme their paginators or navigators or whatever, then so be it.
Okay.
Okay. So then we've got the other options that we were complaining about are these. Yeah, this row backgrounds, column backgrounds. Oh gosh. How can we deal with that? That row backgrounds implicitly implies no alternating column backgrounds. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, qualifying it with only seemed.
No, I don't think that's the right thing, because it's not getting across alternating, which we really need to have. Well, actually, I mean, alternating row backgrounds. See, but I don't understand why why then. Okay, what does alternating row backgrounds do again?
It
So-
gives you alternating backgrounds for the top level rows.
So that's what you have in that light table on the left, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Jupiter has one background, Saturn has one background, etc.
And why does, okay, so that just goes at the top level. So it sprays itself down
Yes.
into all satellites of Neptune, for example, whatever it is. All satellites of Jupiter get sprayed a color.
Right.
Okay. Okay, and then you've got a different, do you have any way of saying, I want it only on the top level, that is the Jupiter level things, but not on the sub pieces over
No.
here for the moons?
No, there's no theme for that.
Okay.
Right, I mean, because those are still in that row.
Right, they have a path,
And so it picks up that row background.
have a path element of Jupiter, for example.
Okay. So again, alternating row backgrounds were the base style to set a column background. Are you seriously imagining that alternating row background switches off the column backgrounds?
That's the way it's currently implemented, yes.
I propose it doesn't work that way. I propose that the base styles.
I mean, so the thing is that the
So-
base styles are an amalgamation of feature styles.
Yeah.
And
Well, which they're not in this case, because the feature styles have this exclusionary characteristic.
So what you're saying is there would not be any full backgrounds. You would combine row backgrounds,
Exactly.
and column backgrounds.
That's what I'm saying. Because the statement that Brett made is not correct with your current design. That is, in what Brett said is every feature thing you throw in is an extra thing that contributes to what you see.
well, it's more complicated than that, right? I mean, so if you go back to the plot theme documentation,
Yeah.
And this aspect of it isn't, really documented, and I don't know that we've, it's not something that has confused people, very often, if at all.
Okay.
Is like for those axis features, there's 8 of them or whatever. One of those is active at a time.
I understand. So if you started on a theme, you're saying, I see what you're saying. So in fact, it's not all being thrown into a vat and then rendered the way it's being told to render. What's instead happening is that these things are the exclusive, they're hitting radio buttons effectively.
Yeah.
Effectively. And what happens is internally there, things get weighted. And so there's a weight for, a base theme, which is pretty low, like 0.1 or something. But if you specify an actual feature, a specific feature theme, that is a higher weight, and as such, it will overrule whatever lower weighted feature theme was part of the base theme.
Right, and dataset themes are implemented the same way.
Okay. Well, so
I mean, I can think about whether it's technically possible to implement these component row.
Well, I'm not sure it's right. I'm not sure it's necessary, right? I mean, so I don't think that the switching off, I just think, okay, so look, alternating row backgrounds would probably do it for me.
I like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just changing row backgrounds to alternating row backgrounds.
And I have to say, I like alternating out front, better than it being in the middle.
Yes. All right, fine. All right, alternating row backgrounds, alternating column backgrounds. And the very obscure alternating row column backgrounds, which is a very obscure case. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So that's that. All right. We finally got that. Okay. Now let's talk about the headers. Okay. So
Wait a minute. What about the other background themes?
Which are what?
Which are hierarchical and detailed.
So detailed is the alternating, but at the bottom level instead of the top level. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Oh boy. And what's hierarchical again?
That's all levels with things combining via transparency. And then I also have separate things for headers and for items. Now those can be combined.
What do you mean headers? Separate things?
So you can specify like alternating header backgrounds and alternating item backgrounds. You can specify those things separately and they combine.
Okay, but alternating row backgrounds for headers, alternating row backgrounds for items is what you're saying.
Yeah. And those are distinguished from the other themes by the word header or item in the name.
Sorry, say that again.
Those are qualified by putting headers or items in the name, in the theme name. So it's row backgrounds and row header backgrounds or row item backgrounds. Row backgrounds does both. Row item only applies to items, row header applies to only headers.
Why are you likely to want? Oh, I see. Okay, all right. Boy, okay, so that becomes alternating row item backgrounds.
Yes.
Okay, so now the question is what happens on the drill down for the detailed thing? Oh boy.
I mean, for that, could we just have a second argument only? You know, list second arguments, the level, like a -1 for the end, or all defaults to the first level.
Well, I could imagine the word leaf in the initial thing. So I mean, alternating leaf row backgrounds. Is it relevant for both headers and content items?
And that, well, Yine, so you can alternate just the leaves, or you could also imagine alternating the leaf headers along with the leaf rows, which I think is actually useful. See what I'm saying?
Leaf headers as
so
well.
In other words, for the moon entry in the Planos data set,
yep,
you'd have the mass and radius items, but you also might want to alternate the colors of the headers for those leaf items.
I understand.
The row headers.
So I mean, so then we have a very long, complicated thing, but that's life. I mean, so we then have alternating row, alternating leaf row headers backgrounds. Is that right?
Row header backgrounds, yes.
Alternating leaf row header backgrounds. Well, it might at least be comprehensible. I mean, not many people are going to see that, but I think that's okay.
Working on line wrap in that table yet.
Yeah, well. Okay. Alternating all row header backgrounds for the other case, for what you're calling hierarchical. Is that right? Is that the correct? So alternating row header row backgrounds is the top level. Mm-hmm. Leaf is the leaf, all is all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What else do we have? So we have to figure out the thing with dividers, right?
I mean, I think the thing with the dividers is, we replace backgrounds with dividers, and unfortunately we, can't do everything yet.
Well, no, because row background.
I think the basic
doesn't
classes
work.
are, for both headers and items, we have the outer dividers and the internal dividers. And then we have the horizontal and the vertical dividers. So I think we want a syntax where you can identify those different classes and then apply different styling to them. And I'm talking about options rather than themes, and maybe method options.
Well, I think what we should be talking about there is options whose value is an association. Because that's how we're now doing these things that have incredibly detailed settings. See what I'm saying?
So it would be dividers, arrow, internal, horizontal headers.
Yeah, I mean, what I think it would look like is something like this: dividers, arrow, internal, arrow, blah, 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 outer, arrow, blah, 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 blah. That would be a typical thing to do.
Yeah.
I think that's readable. And then, presumably background. Wait a minute, I'm now confused. What is the background option again?
Well, there's background and there's header background.
I see. So background could conceivably be some complicated thing with
There's already a syntax for those, right?
For which? I know, but it's possible that it's possible that, and I think we've had some success with this, that even though there is a positional list-based way of specifying things, that we also provide an association-based way with named keys.
Okay. Which are different syntaxes for the same semantics.
That's correct. For example, we did that in cellular automaton fairly successfully. I'll show you the example there. There's something wrong with this selection here. That's not selecting.
It is selecting, it's just not drawing properly. It's reported like 4 times and is known.
That's why we haven't released 12.3 yet. Okay, so here we go. So this is a specification. The following keys can be used. So this is a specification. The first thing there is a positional specification. Okay, which works fine, except it can get quite complicated, right? This is a slightly differently sort of bank switched association-based specification.
Okay, I'll have a look at that.
Okay, I think it's a decent design pattern. Okay, but so probably the very detailed dividers thing we'll do this way. But what you've got right now are, I want dividers for rows, I don't want them for columns, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So do we want to do that by saying row dividers only, column dividers only? I think that's a reasonable thing to do. And with the radio button type approach, it is effectively looking, which is essentially this is exactly the design you've got right now. It's just a rename.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
I'm fine with the name change, yeah. I mean,
okay.
We can do these simpler divider themes initially and roll out a more complex dividers option in the subsequent version.
Right. Okay. So then I would say we should also have dotted dividers. Would be useful.
Well, so you do that by, okay, that means all dividers dotted. I mean, you can do that with a parametric by adding an argument to the theme currently.
Well, so that would be row dividers only and then dotted.
Yeah.
I think we should have a dotted dividers option, just makes all of them dotted. All the ones that aren't, all the item dividers. Maybe that's dotted item dividers. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we need I think we should just have this thing called header lines, and you should do it the best you can.
So that would mean what? Or horizontal lines above and below the group of headers?
I think so. What about vertical headers? What about the headers on the left column? Okay, I would like to suggest another thing. Strong headers and weak headers. Okay, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is there are cases in which I really want the headers to stand out relative to the rest of the table. And there are cases where I want the headers to really hang back relative to the rest.
So is the current default, is that weak headers, or you mean even weaker?
No, I think the current default is, I mean, this one is like mega strong headers. The current default. No, I would say the current default is intermediate, wherever we have it. Because
so weak would be like light gray.
Yes, I mean that it's really gray. It's just a caption, right? It's a like let me give you an example of where you want weak headers. Okay, let's say that the rows are UUIDs. You see what I'm saying? Or the rows are just, you know, unnumbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those numbers are just like, who cares, right? They're like, you want them, they're a detail, but that's not what you want to stand out.
So you want them to be weaker than the content.
That's right. And the other case is the rows are the main event. You know, let's say it's the list of the great you know, bungee jumpers of the whatever, and it's a list of and the you know, the names down here are the names of the bungee jumpers, and these details here are just, you know, how many bridges they jumped off or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right, where the sort of the main event is the headers.
Yeah.
I think I can imagine wanting to go as well, you know, weak column headers, weak row headers. You see what I'm saying? Strong row headers.
Yeah.
Now, you know, in an infinitely complicated case, it's hierarchical and there's all kinds of layers to it, but let's not worry about that for now.
Yeah, well, I haven't implemented it yet, but on my future agenda is, just like in other options, you can specify the global things, but you can also specify things qualified by paths. You can do the same thing for themes. So you can direct a theme at a subdata set. Okay,
well, that's nice. Okay, so let's see. So in terms of actual coloring and so on, you know, in a case like this, if we're going to have these bright colors, we have got to have a background color here, in my view. I don't know whether Jeremy and Tim would like to comment on this. This just looks wrong right now.
It's too contrasting.
I just don't think white is the right color there. Anybody?
Are you thinking an equally strong color, or are you just thinking
No.
like a light gray?
No, I'm thinking of something like this. I don't know whether Jeremy is still with us.
Well, yeah, I don't know about yellow, but something would be good there.
Right. Right. That's the only point I was making. Yellow isn't necessarily the right color. You tell me the color if you want, but
yeah. I don't know. Do like very light blue or light blue.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, well, anyway, it's something like that.
And should the background of those openers match the content?
I was thinking earlier
not quite, but they certainly shouldn't be white like that.
But an opacity of the header would be interesting, and it inherits along the way. That would be kind of nice.
Yes.
How do you mean that?
Well, so you
The
take the
lower
header
level
background
header-
color and give it a percentage of opacity for the contents.
So that you consider mass overlying the moon's header, is that what you mean?
The content, so the contents of mass and radius in those first two columns would be light blue, but the moon's mass and radius, those would be, the reddish orange, but lighter.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, okay.
Okay, so look, I think you guys need to do some work on these colors, because these are really not looking very good. I mean, this just looks crummy. I mean, maybe the fonts don't help it.
I mean, I think that 62 more items or whatever is what kills it.
These here.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty ugly even without that. I think this is like the gray is too dark relative to the color on top of it, which I understand is a quantity, so it's lighter. Now, in terms of these light styles like this, that's sort of okay.
Dividers could be a little bit heavier.
Maybe. I mean,
well, maybe not once we
ugly.
address the boldness of.
Yeah, the font change will help that case a lot.
Yeah.
What is the reason for styling the quantities different? Why are they in the warm gray text rather than black?
I don't know. I don't think it makes a lot of sense.
That causes some problems because some backgrounds
why are we doing
with black text. Well, that's the way I inherited it. I don't know what the reason for that decision was.
Is Jose here? Does he maybe know?
I don't know.
I think it might be a mistake.
It just seems kind of weird to me, and it causes problems with.
Well, let's try not doing it.
Is that style different from the defaults?
Yeah.
For quantities, or?
Yeah, it does. It's a warm gray font color.
But quantities don't look like other types of text output, but in this case, we're saying they should, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I agree with that.
You see that it has a quantity attached.
Yeah.
Right, and by the way, that trailing period really should be dropped. So that about 500 times. Right, isn't there a number form? Isn't that what our decimal form thing does now?
We don't do it in decimal form. We do it in percent form. But I'm not sure with quantity. I think it's important to know that quantities are real. In other cases, like percent form, I fully agree with you.
I don't know. I don't think kilometers. I don't think anybody expects kilometers are measured to the, to the precise, so to speak.
Okay, I'm going to rant for 30 seconds. I hate the fact that if you do control equal 3.0 meters, it gets turned into 3 meters.
Okay. Yeah, it seems wrong. Right, it's a factored discussion, but I think it's one that we need to have, of dropping the periods in these displayed quantities. It's really not, they really don't belong there. If there was a period after it, I mean, you built this very elaborate system for a round, for when for how much stuff you put in and so on. We just need some basic things for this case. Okay.
Yes, but a round will show that period if needed.
I know it will, but I'm saying this period is not needed here.
That I'm not so sure. It's very important that users know that those are reals for some operations.
Well, for some operations, but not in a data set. I mean, a data set is for showing, is for, it's a display form. I don't think they belong there. I think this is, if you put them there, then every single time somebody makes a table for publication, they have to go in and remove those periods. It just doesn't make sense.
So were you talking about only for quantities or for any numeric value?
Well, definitely for quantities. Right, definitely for quantities. These things here look beautiful, but this point just looks like it's a stupid computer.
For example, that I mean, it has 4 digits compared to the previous one, which has like 9 digits. So this is a statement of precision. So if we remove it, we are making a statement of being an integer. So suddenly we change from having no precision whatsoever and after the 6 to infinite precision.
Look, it's not infinite precision. You're reading it as infinite precision, but I'm not.
Right, but if we remove it, if we remove that period, we convert that 3386 into infinite precision.
No. I'm not suggesting we convert it to infinite precision. I'm suggesting that in the display, we don't display the period.
Yes, but then it will read like infinite
No, but
precision.
it won't. It'll only read to you like infinite precision. To everybody else, they'll just think it's a number, right?
I mean, the question is what happens if you copy it out and paste it?
Well, it should be whatever it is underneath, which is a real number, which has the decimal points and other things in it.
What about the decimal points on Metis and Adrastria's mass there?
I think they're superfluous.
So
I think it should be 1.0 times that if it is 1.0. If it's only 1-digit precision, I think it should just be 1 times 10 to the 17. Anyway, that's a separate discussion. Maybe we can put that in an ILD meeting to talk about that.
Yeah, we can discuss that.
That's a separate thing. But let's try and we need to wrap up in a moment here. So the next step here, we've got a few details here which Chris should think through and make sure we didn't goof something up horribly. Then we've got, please just make a new effort at these styles. Fair? That's for Tim and Jeremy. Okay, without using Verdana bold and all this kind of crazy stuff, right? Bonus points, if we can actually try and, as I say, you're designing to the name, like marketing or whatever else, which is just fine and what, we signed up for, so to speak. But, we do need to start coming up with alternate names to design to. I suspect we should leave what we have and add new ones. Am I making sense?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so you guys should come up with some potential names. We can start with this kind of list here. And, okay, does it seem like a plan? And, this has to be turned around very quickly on Chris's part and others to make it into this, to make it now.
Right.
Okay, I think that's probably everything here.
So one other item, dataset editing, which has been finished essentially since the end of last year, is being blocked by a front-end issue. And John told me today he did not know whether it was going to get fixed, which I take it to mean it's not going to get fixed, which would mean dataset editing can't go into 12.3.
That's a real shame.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff for John to do.
Yeah.
I mean, how robust is dataset editing if the front-end feature was fixed?
Oh, I think it's very, very robust. It's very nice, if I say so myself.
Can I see it? I mean, does it work anywhere?
No, it's not on the prototype. I mean, I would have to switch some branches and restart and things.
Ethan is suggesting an option, a lighted item format, arrow none or whatever else. Yeah, I agree that that's an issue. I mean, see, the problem is there's a trade-off between sort of the do the right thing for these data sets and they specify everything, because specifying everything is immensely complicated. And we're trying to, walk a middle line between those two. And the question is, a lighted format, I agree that that's a potential thing that we could parameterize. Although what we have right now is not terrible, and there are a lot of different cases. Well, so what are you asking about in terms of the front end? I mean, what do you want to have happen? I mean, this first I've heard about this issue. So
well, what I wanted to have happen was it to be fixed, but it's out of my hands, and I've been after John to do something, and it just hasn't happened. So
okay, well, if you want to send mail that includes all the relevant people, then maybe we can surface what the issue is. Can you describe what the front end issue actually is?
Yeah, well, it was, so you have the cells in the data set. In order to edit one, you click in the cell. But that cell behind the scenes contains an input field, which doesn't fill the entire cell. And if you don't click in the input field, you don't get an insertion point. So there needs to be an item size arrow full for input fields that makes them expand to the enclosing grid cell.
Okay. Has any work been done on that?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Who would like to take charge of who's project managing here?
Brady's here.
Okay.
I can chase this down.
Chase this down. See what the
Yeah.
story is.
Okay. There's a Jira issue for it. I can send you the Jira issue.
Yeah.
Please do.
And there's also a blocker in the cloud. The grid doesn't handle its content sizes properly. Jan was looking into that in the last couple of days. He was not able to fix it yet. I gave him a heads up that maybe editing was not going to go into 12.3. I don't know if he stopped work on that or not.
Well, I mean, it's 1.58 is going out on Wednesday.
Right.
So this will be in 1.58.2.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that closes.
I'll sort this out.
Okay. Okay. Well, it would be nice to have editing. I'd love to see editing. I mean, not having ever used it. So I just get to click on one of these things and I can edit it. Is that correct?
Yeah, in place. You just click it, you edit it, and you.
Okay, so then I can take this thing, which is an output cell, and I edit it. Does it break its connection to the input cell?
Yes.
It doesn't copy down, but it breaks its connection to the input cell.
Yeah, just like in editing anything else.
Okay, and then so I can press Shift Enter on that thing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What the hell did that do? What did that do? Why did that all go bold?
Because it turns into an input.
An input.
Oh boy. Oh,
I mean,
my
I
gosh.
think it's kind of ugly, but I think it's correct too.
No. It's very ugly, right? But this means any bold, non-bold distinction is blown up by one of these things turning into input, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's an issue. I mean, it's not.
Isn't that the case for anything though?
It is, but we don't use bold versus non-bold. There is almost nothing that is used as input has bold versus non-bold distinctions in it.
But is that because we're not specifying font weight goes to normal or something, right? If you encase it in a scope font style, wouldn't that protect from the bold?
If we want that, I mean, it's not totally obvious, but I mean, the thing is, what's a precedent for something that is essentially a display form like this?
Well, what about graphics? Would you want all the tick labels to be bold? It's a little different, but similar.
Yeah, you're right. It's silly, right? I mean, in the case of a grid, for example, if I make a grid, okay, and then I edit this. Did that go bold?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's semi-bold because it's source. And again, if this font was source, it'd be less, apparent. It looked better, but it's still, you basically flatten out the bold, non-bold, which isn't great.
So you mean this would have flattened the bold, non-bold? If I'd had a bold there, it would have just flattened it.
I think so, yeah.
But I think that's the case. I mean, if I make that bold, the hell did that do? Oh, I see. That there is bold now.
And now your 4 is bolder than your 2.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So I don't think it's. We need to think this through. I suspect it's not right for it to go bold for the same reason as Jeremy points out that it isn't right for labels and graphics to go bold. See what I'm saying, Chris?
Right. Yep.
But
presumably it should not be unchanged either, right?
I agree, although graphics would be unchanged, wouldn't it? How would you know that a graphic is being used as input? See what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let me just use that as input. Yeah, there's no difference.
Well, yeah, maybe that's better. Yeah.
I think it doesn't want to just muddy the thing up with bold all over the place. That doesn't make sense.
Right, I mean, it's sort of similar to what happens with the large output suppression.
Which is what?
Everything gets bolded.
Right.
I think I agree. It should not change.
Okay. All right. We should wrap this up. I think we've made very good progress here. Sorry, it was a little turbulent there. A couple more comments I'm looking at here. There's a question from Dongs about themed notebooks. Will the tables theme against? They will when you reevaluate them. They will not change their theming dynamically. Is that correct, guys?
Correct.
Ethan is saying you can't set a hint, click or set autocomplete in the cloud for input fields. I didn't know that. Brady, that's another thing you could chase with Yarn.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else, this is great, but I think we do need to get an update on this real soon.
Yeah.
And this is very nice stuff. Even nicer when we have editing, and hopefully that will squeak in to this version.
Okay.
All right. See you all soon. Thank you. Thanks to folks on the live stream. Lots of very useful comments. Okay, there's also image size and return key have never worked for input field in cloud notebooks. Sounding like input field in cloud notebooks is quite impoverished here. Let's try and give it some
life.
Yeah. Okay. All right. See you guys soon. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.